Good morning, everyone. Today I am going to present on the topic sugar substitutes. The contents include the introduction, about sucrose, definitions, classification of the sugar substitute, various sugar substitutes, among which I will be today including the sugar alcohols. As the quote says, you can't buy happiness, but you can buy cupcakes. And that's the kind of same thing. And another quote saying, sugar is 8 times as addictive as cocaine. So starting with this introduction of the sugar substitutes. So starting with the sweet tasting foods, it is directly related to the happiness of an individual. What comes to our mind when someone shares any kind of happiness, that where are the sweets? Be it someone's birthday or achievement or any kind of festival, the first thing comes to our mind are the sweets. The sweets are known as the universal human weakness. Sweetness is a taste that is strongly identified with the affection and the reward. So coming to sucrose, the word sugar has been traced to the Chinese term sachet, which literally means the sand sugar plant, or the Sanskrit word sharkera, which means the sand or the gravel, or Arabic word sukar. The sucrose or the table sugar is considered as sugar by most of the people, whereas the actual meaning of the sugar, it includes all the monosaccharides and the disaccharides, and it is a versatile sweetener. The fruits, berries, and the honey are the earliest sweet foods to be known. Even though stone paintings in the southern Spain depicts the theft of honey from the from the bee's nest by the human beings. Since 17th century, the sugar or the sucrose has been used as a primary sweetening agent. Approximately 90 million tons of sugar is manufactured in the world every year. For at least 1,000 years, sugar has been valued as an organoleptic, that is, it has a specific taste for an individual. It is also used as a preservative and important trading commodity. The FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization, or the WHO report recognizes that sugar contributes to the energy density of the diet, and it also contributes to the global epidemic of the obesity, and it may also cause the type 2 diabetes and the coronary heart disease. So coming to a question, is sugar really that important? We being periodontists encounter many children with caries because of the excess sugar intake. So I would now like to begin with the other side of the coin, that is the deleterious effects of the sugar. Miller, Gottlieb, Key, and for many other scientists for more than a century have studied various aspects of the dental caries etiopathogenesis. And they have clearly indicated that bacteria among with the teeth and in the presence of sugar leads to formation of the organic acids, which leads to the dental caries. Even in the Keyes triad in 1960, he has clearly mentioned that high sugar diet is an important factor in the occurrence of caries. The oral sugar clearance rate, Lundqvist in 1952 has found the significant correlation between high sugar concentration in the saliva with a prolonged clearance time and the caries activity. It implies that retentive, sticky, sweet foods are more cariogenic than the other foodstuffs. So determination of the sucrose content in various foods that we intake, which may include the diet soft drinks or the cheese, which have 0% sugar. The cane juices have 2.5% sucrose. Conventional soft drinks has 4.3% sucrose. Chocolates which are plain have maximum sucrose, that is 56%, while the milk chocolates have 45% sucrose, and the liquid medicines also have 50% sucrose. Starting with the dental caries are 60 to 90% of seen in the 60 to 90% of the school children and the adults, as reported by WHO in 2003. Even in the Indian scenario, 83.4% amongst the 15-year-old group, while 83 to 86% in the 35 to 44-year-old population is seen by Saluke in 2019. There have been various classical evidence from the humans supporting the role of sugar in the dental caries, like the Whiplup study, which have clearly mentioned more frequently sugar is consumed, greater is the risk of caries. Turku study, the World War II study by Tuverud and Takeuchi, the Hopewood House study, experimental caries study in the man, and even the Stephen Plack pH response. All of these studies have clearly demarcated the effect of sugar on the dental caries. There are various review articles also which show the relationship between the sugar in the diet and the dental caries, and all of these studies by Mathler, Newbrun, Scribney, Shaw, Ragan, and Walker, all these studies have clearly described that the amount, frequency, and the type of sugar is directly related to the incidence of caries. Now coming to the industrial risk of the sugar, the workers in the bakeries and the candy factories are exposed to daily air polluted with the sugar dust, and therefore it has been seen that they have higher caries prevalence. The Cuban sugar cane workers have adverse effects of habit like chewing the raw sugar cane, which also leads to incidence of dental decay. And it presents as a fact that the raw sugar can be as deleterious as the refined sugar which we eat. Now, coming to the presence of sugar in the liquid oral medicines. This is one article which about cariogenic potential of most commonly prescribed liquid oral medicines for the children by Nikita Agarwal et al. They have categorized the medicines into 4 categories: the antipyretic, analgesics, antibiotics, antihistaminics, and multivitamins. And high concentration of sugar was found in 50% of the samples. And the sugar concentration was ranging from 20.6 to 68.2 percentage. As a sugar in medication is a potential threat to the teeth, and therefore the alternate, that is the sugar substitute, should be considered in the liquid oral medicines. Another article, that is estimation of sugar content in the various brands of the paracetamol syrups. Here we can see the amount of sugar in the various paracetamol syrups like Dolopar, Pacimol DS, Parasyrup, and Pyragesic. And this study concluded that the factors contributing to the caries may be candies as well as the syrups which are prescribed during the various infections to the individual. The reducing the cariogenic factors should be the primary concern. Hence, the sugar substitute which are not potentially cariogenic can be replaced in order to make it more safe and beneficial. Now, starting with the sugar substitutes. The definition: sugar substitute is a food additive that provides a sweet taste like that of a sugar while containing significantly less food energy than the sugar based sweeteners and making it 0 calorie or the low calorie sweetener. The polyols, which includes the sorbitol, mannitol, and the xylitol, which are not exactly the sugars, but they are referred as sugar alcohols. The intrinsic sugars, they could be the sugars or the sugar substitute which could be naturally integrated into the cellular structure of a food, or like in the foods or the vegetables, or extrinsic sugar which are free in the food or added to it. Coming to the classification of the sugar substitute, they can be classified as caloric, which could be further classified as polyalcohols, hydrogenated starch, hydrolysate, and the coupling sugar, or non-caloric, which includes the saccharin, aspartame, sucralose, neotame, etc. Based on the origin, the sugar substitute can be classified as natural or artificial. The natural includes the monolin, licorice, dihydrochalcone, miraculin, and stevia, whereas the artificial includes aspartame, saccharin, cyclamate, and sucralose. Now, the properties of an ideal sweetener or a sugar substitute are: it should provide sweetness, no unpleasant aftertaste, little or no calories, should not be cariogenic or mutagenic, and economical to produce, and it should not be degraded by heat when cooked. Now, the reasons for the use of sugar substitute: it assists in the weight loss and therefore decrease the chances of obesity, which is increased in the worldwide due to the change in the dietary habits of the individual. The amount of dental care: the sugar substitute reduce the amount of dental decay. It also regulates the blood sugar levels and therefore could be used by the diabetic patients also. And it could it could also help in avoiding the processed foods. Here is a review article about sugar substitutes and the health by Vipin Kumar Sharma. And it is believed that the benefits of sugar-free gums may be twofold. It increases the supersaturation of the saliva with the mineral ions as well as enhanced clearance of the sugar from the mouth. And sugar substitution and salivary stimulation could be equally responsible for the non-cariogenicity of the sugar-free chewing gum. Another article by Naiwat B et al. In this, they have compared the 4 types of gums, that is sorbitol carbamide gum, sorbitol gum, xylitol gum, and the control group. And in the results, they have indicated that the caries preventive effect of the chewing sugar-free gum is related to the chewing process itself rather than being an effect of the gum sweeteners or the additives such as polyols and the carbamide. The effect of non-cariogenic sweeteners on the prevention of the dental caries, a review of the evidence by Hayes et al. In this study, they demonstrated a consistent decrease in the dental caries ranging from 30 to 60% among the subjects using sugar substitute as compared to the control group. And the caries reduction rate was observed in the subjects using xylitol or sorbitol as a sugar substitute in the chewing gum or in the toothpaste. The highest caries reduction was observed in the subjects using xylitol, and therefore this study suggests the replacement of the sucrose with sorbitol or the xylitol. The role of sugar and sugar substitutes in the dental caries, a review by Prahlad Gupta et al. Aspartame, a dipeptide composed of two naturally occurring amino acids, became available in the US in 1982, and 20 years later, the systematic studies were carried about it in the Europe and as an alternative sweetener for the caries control. The field studies on the xylitol were carried out in Russia, Hungary, and Estonia, which have shown that xylitol is a non-cariogenic. And the Belai study is the first clinical trial of the xylitol that enables the caries preventive action of the xylitol by K.K. Makinen et al. In 1995. The effect of sugar-free and regular toothpaste on the salivary glucose and the pH among type 2 diabetes, a randomized control crossover trial. In this, they saw that sugar-free toothpaste show beneficial effect on the salivary glucose level and the salivary pH level on the diabetes and the non-diabetic population. The effect of conventional and the sugar-free pediatric syrup formulations on the primary tooth enamel hardness and in vitro study. In this, they have seen the pH of the syrups were above the critical pH for demineralization of the tooth, but the titrable acidity and buffering capacity differed. Therefore, they concluded that sugar-free pediatric medicines can be effective in reducing the dental erosion, and effort should be made to incorporate the sugar substitute in formulation of the pediatric medicines. The sugar content in the liquid oral medicines for the children. In this study, they have seen that the antibiotic amoxicillin was found to be at the top of the list, followed by the analgesic paracetamol. When the commercial name were asked to the pediatrician or the pharmacist, the first drug that was recalled by them was the antibiotic solution, followed by which was used for treating the bronchitis. And among the 14 prescribed medicines, only 4 did not have sugar contents. All the other medicine sold and the prescribed in the study area showed the cariogenic sugar levels in their ingredients. Coming to the knowledge and attitudes of the pharmacist regarding the sugar content in the medicine in the Bangalore city, a questionnaire study by H.R. Jain et al. In this, they found that around 68% of the pharmacists agreed that sugar-containing medicines taken long-term could lead to dental problems. Only 13% of the pharmacists believe that the patient prefers sugar-free medicines, and most of the pharmacists felt that they themselves have an important role in educating the people about the sugar-containing medicines. Now, comparison of the sweetness of the sucrose with the various sugar substitutes, like xylitol is 1x sweetness by weight, 1.7x times sweetness by food energy, and 0.6 times sweetness by energy density. Sorbitol is 0.6x sweetness by weight, 0.9x sweetness by food energy, and 0.65x by energy density. Malitol is 0.9x sweetness by weight, which is maximum. Among the sugar alcohols, 1.7x sweetness by food energy and 0.5 by energy density. The stevia, the monolin, that is 3000x sweetness by weight, and stevia is 250x by sweetness. Coming to artificial sugar substitutes, the comparison of their sweetness, Acesulfame potassium is 200x sweetness by weight, aspartame is 200x sweetness, cyclometame is 30x sweetness, neotame is 8000x sweetness, and saccharin is 300x sweetness. Starting with the sugar alcohols, they are also known as the polyols, or the polyhydric alcohols or polyalcohols. They are the carbohydrates in which the carbonyl group is hydrogenated to form a hydroxyl group. They are naturally found in many fruits and vegetables, but they can also be manufactured. They contain calories, but as compared to sucrose, the amount of calories is low. It protects the food from browning up upon heating, and therefore they can be used as food additives. They do not caramelize. And the precipitable cooling sensation in the mouth, they have a precipitable cooling sensation in the mouth when dissolved from the crystalline state, and therefore they are used in the chewing gums and the candies. The sugar alcohols also have low glycemic index, and therefore they can be consumed by the diabetics. If they are non-cariogenic, and they reduce the risk of obesity, type 2 diabetes, and the cardiovascular diseases. Coming to novel sweeteners, they are the recent sugar substitute. Tagatose, inulin, and fructose oligosaccharides are included in this group. They are not completely digested by the human body, and this indigestibility leads to less caloric effect, and therefore they lead to less chances of caries. They have selective support of the growth of the beneficial colonic bacteria also, and therefore they are used in the prebiotics and the growth of bifidobacteria bacteria and lactobacilli in the intestinal tract. The artificial sweeteners, they are synthetic sugar substitutes, and the amount to be used is very minute as compared to the natural sweeteners. They are used in various products such as toothpaste, chewing gums, and many medications, especially those are intended for the pediatric population. They are not fermented by the oral microflora, and therefore the incidence of the caries is decreased in this artificial sweeteners. They are non-cariogenic, and they can be used by the diabetic individuals also. Starting with xylitol, it was discovered in the wood chips in 1890 and in wheat and oat straw in 1891. It corresponds to xylose, and it is non-fermentable, pleasant tasting, non-karyogenic polyol derived from the pentose sugar xylose. It is relatively expensive to manufacture and it is as sweet as sucrose. The approval for safe use in human was given in 1986 and it is primarily used in the chewing gums. In early 1960s, it was used for the infusion therapy for post-operative burn and the shock patients. And the first chewing gum was given in Finland in 1975. The first xylitol study in the human are known as the Turku sugar studies, which I have already described earlier. The studies indicate that the xylitol affects the ability of certain S mutant strains to adhere to the hydroxypeptide, as given by Sally K. M. et al. In 2016. The prolonged use of xylitol suggests that xylitol-resistant mutation of the Streptococcus mutans may occur, as given by Trahan et al. In 1985. The studies have also been performed with xylitol intake ranging from 4 to 15 grams per day, divided into 3 to 7 consumption periods by Campus G et al. In 2013. And excess use of the xylitol may lead to abdominal distress and osmotic diarrhea by Lai K.A. et al. In 2006. The xylitol gives 2.4 calorie per gram energy. It is approved for the special dietary use, whereas it is not approved as a sweetener by FDA. It reduces the dental plaque and increases the salivary flow. It also helps in reduction of the caries and transmission of the karyogenic bacteria from the mother to the infant. It is also termed as bactericidal, and it also helps in reduction of the ear infections in the children. The nature and occurrence of xylitol. It is naturally occurring pentose sugar alcohol. It was first synthesized in 1891 by German and French scientists, and about 5 to 15 grams xylitol is produced per day in human adults. The fruits which have naturally occurring xylitol are the strawberries, plums, and the raspberries. And the vegetables are lettuce, cauliflowers, and the mushrooms. And the daily intake of the xylitol could be 750 milligram per kg per day. The various forms in which xylitol is available are the gums, mints, chewable tablet, lozenges, toothpaste, in the mouthwashes, and in the cough mixtures. Now coming to the various studies on the xylitol, starting with the study by Candleman D et al. They have concluded that chewing xylitol gum has a beneficial effect on the caries process for all the type of tooth surfaces, but chewing gum with a higher xylitol content has an additional positive effect on the buccolingual surfaces. McKinnon KK et al. That is the first study on the xylitol chewing gums in 1995. They have concluded that systematic usage of polyol-based chewing gums reduces the caries rates in the young subjects, with the xylitol gums being more effective than sorbitol gums. And another study by the same author in 1995 concluded that consumption of the xylitol gum was associated with the arrest of carious lesion, and as expected, the highest dose of xylitol had the greatest effect. The number of the lesions that rehardened ranged from 9 to 27% in all the groups and 12 to 27% in the 100% xylitol groups. The relation between the xylitol and the Streptococcus mutans, as explained by Lines et al., the microorganisms do not readily metabolize the xylitol, and the minimal effect is seen on the plaque pH. The xylitol accumulates intracellularly in the S mutants and inhibits the growth of the bacteria. It has seen that short-term effect is associated with the decreased S mutants level in both the saliva and the plaque. And the long-term habitual consumption leads to selective effect on the S mutants, because they generate a resistance to the xylitol. These colonies therefore are shed more easily from the plaque into the saliva, into the individual's decay experience, influence transmission of the S mutants from the mother to their children. Another studies, the abilities of the xylitol and sorbitol to remineralize early enamel caries seem to be similar by Manning RH in 2002. A non-fermentable sugar acts as a carrier or a reservoir for the calcium phosphate by Yoshihiko et al. In 2005. It has been observed that the effect of xylitol along with the calcium lactate improves the remineralization by Suda R et al. In 2006. A study showed that the sugar-free gums containing the xylitol produces superior remineralization by Manto DJ in 2008. Another article on the daily use of dentifrice with and without xylitol and fluoride, the effect on the glucose retention in the humans in vivo study in 2003. It concluded that the xylitol dentifrice was more effective, and the fluoride dentifrice was more effective in reducing the glucose retention than the xylitol non-fluoride dentifrice. These are the other studies by Thubin S et al. This study concluded that the use of xylitol chewing gum can reduce the level of the Streptococcus mutans in the plaque and the saliva. Bird BA concluded that the regular use of xylitol sweetened gums as a way to prevent the caries, and it can be promoted as a public health preventive measure. The taste of xylitol in the milk as a first step towards measuring the effectiveness of xylitol containing the milk on the caries was tested in the Peruvian children by Castillo JL et al. In 2005, and they suggested that the xylitol sweetened milk appeared to be well accepted, offering a novel means for administration. However, there is a question of introducing the sweet taste at this early age. Hildebrand GH concluded that use of commercially available chlorhexidine rinses for 2 weeks, followed by the daily use of the xylitol gum, that is 2 pellets containing 1.7 gram xylitol in the high caries rate adults, with the recent restorations led to a major decrease in the Streptococcus mutans counts. Holgerson PL et al. Concluded that the chewing gum with the xylitol or sorbitol maltitol can reduce the amount of dental plaque and acid production in the saliva in the school children, but only the xylitol containing gum may interfere with the microbial composition. Thorild I et al. Concluded that less caries were observed in the children of the mothers who chewed gums with the xylitol as the single sweetener during the time of eruption of the first primary teeth, compared with those who used the gum containing the fluoride, sorbitol, or the lower amounts of xylitol. Milgram P et al. Concluded that the dose responses of the Streptococcus mutans in the plaque and unstimulated saliva to the xylitol gums. The xylitol at 6.4 grams per day and 10.3 grams per day reduces the Streptococcus mutants in the plaque at 5 weeks, and in the plaque and unstimulated saliva at 6 months. A plateau effect is suggested between 6.4 to 10.3 grams xylitol per day. Another study by Elanzi et al. In 2016, he did the study to measure the xylitol content in the sugar-free chewing gums available in the market in the countries of Middle East. And the mean measured xylitol content was 0.33 grams. And they stated that majority of the xylitol chewing gums sold on the market do not provide the consumers with the recommended daily dose of the xylitol for the caries prevention. And therefore, they concluded that clear, accurate labeling for the xylitol chewing gums should be promoted. The sugar substitute xylitol reduces the risk of caries as given in the Science Daily in 2007. About 6 grams of xylitol per day is needed to counteract the production of acid and thereby reduce the risk of cavities. The daily intake should be distributed over at least 3 occasions, and the daily intake of 3.4 grams of xylitol was sufficient to change the consistency of the bacteria, but this did not lead to a lower production of the lactic acid in the plaque. Coming to the policy statement given by AAPD in 2019, the AAPD supports the use of xylitol and the other sugar alcohols as non-cariogenic sugar substitute. They recognize that presently there is a lack of consistent evidence showing the significant reduction in the MS and the dental caries in the children. They also recognize that the large doses and at high frequency of xylitol used in the clinical trials may be unrealistic in the clinical practice. They further support the research to clarify the impact of xylitol delivery vehicles, the frequency of the exposure, and the optimal dosage to reduce the caries and improve the oral health of the children. As given in AAPD, the dosing frequency should be minimum of 2 times per day, not to exceed 8 grams per day. And in the children less than 4 years, xylitol syrup 3 to 8 grams per day in the divided dosage should be given. And in the children above 4 years, same dosage can be given with the appropriate products like chewing gums, mint or the lozenges. And a recent meta-analysis proved that xylitol to be effective self-applied caries preventive agent by Jankiram et al. In 2017. The antimicrobial effect of toothpaste containing the fluoride, xylitol, or the xylitol probiotic on the salivary Streptococcus mutans and the lactobacillus in the children by Medin et al. They concluded that xylitol probiotic toothpaste was efficient to reduce the amount of caries, and therefore they recommended that it could be used as a therapeutic toothpaste, especially in the children who are at high caries risk. Are the sugar substitute also anti-cariogenic? This is an article by Zero DT et al. In 2008, and they have suggested that the bulk sweeteners like xylitol has been most studied and reviewed, and it is also been the most controversial sugar substitute used. The controversies revolve around whether the xylitol has an anti-caries benefit and or where it is because of the stimulation of the saliva because of the xylitol. Starting with the sorbitol, it is a sugar alcohol that occurs naturally in many fruits and berries. It is produced commercially from the glucose and it is expensive to manufacture, but when compared to xylitol, it is inexpensive. It is also used as a bulk sweetener, and it is half as sweet as sucrose. It was introduced in the diet of the diabetes in 1929. In 1970s, it was introduced in the field of dentistry, and various experiments were conducted to check the kerogenicity of sorbitol. The S mutants have the enzymes to degrade the sorbitol, and therefore the fermentation process is slow, and therefore it helps in reduction of the caries. It is low kerogen sweetener than a non-kerogen sweetener, because consumption of the larger amount increases the acid production microorganisms in the plaque, as described by Jacob et al. In 2016. Ingesting large amounts of sorbitol may lead to abdominal pain, gas, and mild or severe diarrhea, and it may also aggravate the irritable bowel syndrome and fructose malabsorption. The first clinical study with the sorbitol in the children was done by Slack et al. In 1964, where the children were receiving the sorbitol tablets, and they developed 48% less caries than the control children. In the early chewing gum study, the children used the sorbitol gum 3 times daily, and they had 10% less caries over a period of 2 years by Moeller et al. In 1973. And a 3-year study in the Hungary revealed 48% reduction in the caries by the use of the sorbitol in the children by Banoczy et al. In 1981. Another study, a test group of 7 to 11-year-old children consuming the 2 sorbitol gums per day, and they did not develop any caries for 2 years period, as studied by Glass et al. In 1983. In a 6-year-old children group, the chewing sorbitol pellet gum resulted in 55% decrease in the caries by McKinnon et al. In 1996. And the effect of chewing sorbitol gums 3 times daily after the meals at school was only small as compared to no chewing gum, as given by Beiswenger et al. In 1998. Coming to mannitol, it is an isomer of sorbitol, which was first isolated from the sap of a flowering ash tree found in the southern Europe and the Asia. It is also available from the exudates from the trees and in the marine algae and fresh mushrooms. It is produced by the hydrogenation of the glucose syrups. It is commercially available in variety of powder and the granular forms, and it is often used as a humectant for its humectant properties, and it is non-hygroscopic, that is, it does not pick up moisture, and therefore it is used in various food additives. It is used as a dusting powder for chewing gums to prevent the gum from sticking to the manufacturing equipment or the wrappers. It has a pleasant taste. It does not discolor on the high temperature. Therefore, it is also used in the pharmaceuticals and the nutritional tablets. It provides 1.6 calories per gram, and acceptable dietary intake of 0.0 to 50 milligrams is indicated. Erythritol, it is present in the fruits such as pears, melons, and the grapes, as well as in the foods such as mushrooms. It can be obtained from the fermentation of the glucose by the yeast. It is a white crystalline powder, odorless, a clean, sweet taste similar to that of the sucrose. It flows easily due to its non-hygroscopic characteristic as that of mannitol. The caloric value is 2 calories per gram. 7 to 13% of the calories of the other polyols, and 5% calories of that of the sucrose. And it is rapidly absorbed in the small intestine, and even rapidly eliminated by the body within 24 hours. The sweetness is 70 to 80% that of sucrose, and it is predominantly absorbed from the small intestine, and most of it is excreted in the urine without being metabolized, and therefore it does not cause any side effects like diarrhea, which we have seen with the other sugar alcohols. This is a review article by about erythritol is more effective than xylitol and sorbitol in managing the oral health endpoints by Peter et al. And they have suggested that the erythritol has good digestibility without any impact on the blood glucose and insulin levels, and has a significant history of safe use. It suppresses the harmful bacteria and reduces the biofilm, and also the risk of dental caries. And it is also used as a supportive agent in the periodontal therapy. Therefore, it is coming up as a new sugar substitute and a better sugar substitute than the xylitol or sorbitol, which are most commonly used these days. The other sugar substitutes I'll be covering next time. Thank you.